So welcome to week 10 of our lecture. There are only 3 more weeks left to your class. And so don't forget to fill out your end of class survey, which you will get in your email in the next couple of weeks. So in the end of class survey, which is going to come in the next couple of weeks, you can write about how you like this class, how you would like the class to be improved. If the teacher is really good, you could give her a thumbs up, or if the teacher was kind of, not grouchy, but too fussy, you could write about that as well. So in the end of class survey, this is the way that the school can see how the teacher or how the class can be improved for future students. And so don't forget to fill that out. And then for week 10, you have 2 things you have to do. You're going to do the week 10 forum, where you're going to write about your, I think it's the second half of your persuasive essay, and you're just going to write out your rough draft and your final draft all together, because you only have 2 parts to your persuasive essay. Week 9, you did the outline and pre-writing, and then for week 10, that becomes, then you have the writing, the final draft, and writing. In other words, everything all together. You don't have to upload your persuasive essay anywhere. All you have to do is just, and don't worry about the double spacing and all that kind of stuff, because the forums don't do that. So all you have to do is just make sure you have your in-text citations anytime you have a numerical data, historical, scientific data. Make sure that you cite your sources to avoid plagiarism. And then if you have a direct quote, you have your author, your date and page number, and the quotation marks. And if you paraphrase the quote, then you just need the author and the date. You don't need quotation marks. And then when you write your reference citation, you write that at the bottom of your post, and then you have to include the author name, the date, the article name, publication name, date you retrieved, website, and then your web address. And then make sure that your reference citations are in alphabetical order. So that's your first assignment. It's just that week 10 forum, and then hand in your persuasive essay final draft. So that's activity number 1. And then activity number 2, you're going to fill out the week 10 worksheet. So that is an APA worksheet where you're going to answer 4 different questions. You're going to find me 3 credible sources, and then you're going to, for each of the credible sources, you're going to answer the question, why is this a credible source? Then you're going to give me a direct quote, a paraphrase quote, and a reference citation. So that's for source 1. You're going to do that 3 times, and then that becomes your week 10 worksheet. Many students have a lot of trouble doing APA, so the very first thing I'm going to go over in today's lecture is what is APA, and what is the proper way to use APA to avoid plagiarism. And then after I go over the APA and then the worksheet, then I'm going to go over what is fake news and how to avoid and how to find credible sources and how to avoid non-credible sources, and how to tell fact from fiction. So the title of today's lecture is called Media Literacy, and it teaches you media literacy, that is, not to believe everything that you see on social media and everything that you read in the newspaper or articles. And I will teach you which articles you can believe in and which articles you don't. And so that's pretty much this week's lecture is going to be about media literacy and APA and how to do your worksheet. Any questions so far? No? All right. So I will now share my screen for this week's lecture. So here you have share. Can you see the week 10 instructor session that is blue?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so here you have, so today we're going to go over what is APA, how to do the week 10 credible sources assignment, the week 10 and 11 forum, different types of fake news, and using Kapow to evaluate for credible sources. Also, do not use the same topic for your week 9 post as your comparison contrast essay. So that means that for your persuasive essay, you need to choose a different topic and not the same topic as your comparison contrast essay. We will come back to the comparison contrast essay in the week 11 forum. So here are some common APA errors from previous students. What is wrong with these reference citations? Jasmine or Chantal or Donald, what is wrong with all of these reference citations?
Is it they don't have the
The
date?
author name.
Yep,
Oh, that too.
yep, it's missing the author name, it's missing the date. What else is it missing? Article name.
Would it be the title of the article?
Yeah, the title of the article, and also it's missing the publication name and then the date they retrieved the website. So this is very common for students to just put this at the very end of this. So you guys doing it, it's all a common mistake. And so here, this student did it correctly. So she has the last name first, first name, then of the author name, then you have the article name in italicized, and then you have the name of the journal, which is Violence and Gender, Volume 6, Edition 1, retrieved December 8, 2021, and then you have, last but not least, the web address. So this one also is correct. You have the author name, the date, article name, and then you have the publication name, date you retrieved, website. So remember, your in-text citation, which is the citations that go inside your body paragraphs, should match your reference citations. So your in-text citations are inside the body of your paper, while your reference citations are placed at the end of your paper. So when do we use APA? APA stands for, and I said this several times already, American Psychological Association. And APA is used in social science research and business research papers. We use APA when we cite medical facts, historical facts, numbers, statistics, percentages, complex facts, unusual facts, anything that is not common knowledge. Example of common knowledge in the US. December 25th is Christmas Day. December 24th is Christmas Eve. January 1st is New Year's Day. You don't have to cite any of this because that's common knowledge. Example of uncommon knowledge. The Chinese New Year is based on the lunar calendar. This is uncommon knowledge in the United States. Now, if you're a Chinese person writing a paper, you do not need to cite the Chinese New Year is based on the lunar calendar, because then everybody in China already knows that the Chinese New Year is based on the lunar calendar, because that's probably something they learn when they're in first or second grade. Just like everybody in the United States would know that December 25th is Christmas Day. So you only cite uncommon knowledge. If you're not sure, cite the source. So here is a rundown of how we use APA: medical facts, historical facts, dates, percentages, statistics, any kind of numbers, and definitions. And so when we use APA in-text citations, so in-text citations occur inside the body of your paper. And so here you have a direct quote where you have a beginning quotation mark and an ending quotation mark, and then you have the author, the date, and the page number. And then when you paraphrase, and you're going to be doing that for your, when you take a direct quote, you're taking it directly from the source, verbatim. Then when you paraphrase that same source or that same quote, paraphrasing means you put it into your own words. So if the direct quote says, marijuana lessens the effect of chemotherapy, then the paraphrase quote would be, marijuana makes the side effects of chemotherapy less severe. So here I put this direct quote into my own words. So that's known as a paraphrase quote. So both the direct quote and the paraphrase quote go inside the body of your body paragraph. Then your reference citation will go at the end of your paper, and you're going to have the author last name, the date, article name, journal name, date you retrieved, website, and web address. Then you're going to answer the question, why is this article credible, in your worksheet? And then you're going to say this article is credible because C for currency, we're doing kapow, so C is for currency. This article is credible because it was published in 2020, in other words, within the last 10 years. A, author, it was written by an expert, Dr. Smith. P, purpose, it's not a TV ad, it's for education. O, objectivity. It is objective because it talks about medicine and it talks about both sides of an issue. W, writing style. It has a thesis, that is, the article has a thesis with supporting paragraphs and has no grammar errors. That's how you answer the how is this article credible. Okay, here are some more examples of in-text citations. Music theory improves short-term memory. This is a medical fact, so you have to cite it. The level of poverty will decrease through legal prostitution, and one can have other benefits such as health insurance, IRAs, and paid time off just as others do in regular jobs. So this would be a scientific fact. In Missouri, new officers start at $13.50 an hour. And so here you have a number. So any kind of number, you have to cite the source. In the 2008 recession, budget cuts caused officer layoffs. During this time in Memphis, use of force doubled because of not enough officers. 14% fewer officers in 2017 led to 20% more gun, knife, and serious violent crimes. So anytime you use dates and percentages, you have to cite the source. Reparations will be a step forward toward breaking the generational curse of belittlement. So if you're going to be using historical data, you need to cite the source. And so here you have more of the same. 60% of adolescents spend their last hour before their sleep on phones. And this is the reason why sleep deprivation is. So this is a medical fact, and it has a percentage. So you have to cite the source. Team-based video games can improve mental adaptability. So this is an example of a medical fact, and you have to cite the source. Here you have an example of a reference citation. We place the reference citation at the end of the paper, after the last page of the paper. We provide a list of references at the end of the paper so the reader knows where you got your information from. We list our references in alphabetical order, and we use left-hanging indent to list our references. Every reference citation needs to have a matching in-text citation. While in-text citations are located in the body of the paper, reference citations are located at the end of the paper. While in-text citations only have a few items for direct quotes, So in-text citations have a few items for direct quotes, and you just have author, date, page number for direct quotes, and then you have author and date for paraphrase quotes. Reference citations have a longer format, so this is the format of a reference citation. And this page came from your interactive lecture. So if you want to read more about it, you can go to your interactive lecture, which is every week, to learn more about APA. This is what your week 10 credible sources assignment is going to look like. And so here you're going to have your website link, title of the page, the adverse impact on U.S. Society of COVID-19, title of website, WHO World Health Organization. In 1 to 3 sentences, explain why the source is credible. The source is credible because they work with the CDC to report world health issues. I can use this paper to show people why we need social distancing. I use the Kapow method for this source. This article is current. A, it is written by a doctor. P, the purpose is not intended to sell anything like an ad, and this article is objective and written by an expert. O, objective, the article is based on credible sources and not based on biased articles. W, for writing style, the writing is formal and the grammar is correct. Since my article fulfills Kapow, then this article is credible. So that's how you're going to fill out the why is this article credible source. And then you're going to have your number 5 is going to be a direct quote. So if you find a direct quote, which is verbatim what is in the article. So 70% of people with COVID who don't get vaccinated die. So Smith 2020, page 20. So take a sentence from the article to cite. Then number 6, paraphrase. So you're going to paraphrase this direct quote. So you would say most people die of COVID if they don't get vaccinated. And so here, summarize a sentence from the article to cite. And so then after that, you're going to write a reference citation, and that's it. So this equals one source. You're going to do this 3 times for your worksheet. So your worksheet will look more or less like this. So what you can do to make it simpler is you can simply cut and paste all of this and then just fill it in with your source. So you could use this source 1, source 2, source 3 that I have on this. I will send you a copy. I think I sent you the week 10 lecture notes yesterday. It should be in your email. So you could just cut and paste this and this and this, and then find your 3 sources. You can find the 3 sources either for your persuasive essay or for your comparison contrast essay. That's up to you. But basically, for this assignment, it doesn't matter why you're looking for the 3 credible sources. You just have to find me 3 credible sources for your week 10 worksheet. So that's all you have to do. You go to Google Scholar and you could choose a topic, or you could go to LIRN and choose a topic to get 3. LIRN, that's your Fortis online library. I also posted a 2-minute video on how you can find a peer-reviewed article. So that pretty much sums it up. And then here, source number 2, then same thing. You put the website name, title of the page. Yes, any questions?
No.
Oh, okay.
Is this one due for today?
Nope, this one's due Sunday. So
What is due for today?
today is your week 10 forum. Your week 10 forum, you're just going to write about last week you did the pre-writing for your persuasive essay. So week 10 forum, you're going to write out the paragraph format of your persuasive essay. That's all you're going to do this week. So week 10 forum is you write out your persuasive essay in 3 paragraphs. Then you have your week 10 credible sources assignment, in which you're going to find 3 credible sources for your comparison contrast essay. So okay, so that's it, because that's the next essay week. And then week 11 forum, you're going to write out the rough draft for your comparison contrast essay, and then you're done. Because week 12, all you do is reflect on what you learned, and I think you do that in almost every class anyway, right? The last forum is all about reflection in your other classes? Yeah?
No.
No? Well, anyway, in this class, that's what it is. So, and in my other classes that I teach at my other school, the last forum is always a reflection forum. So, at least for this class, that's how they do it. So here you have another source, and you just do the same thing. Website link, title of the page, then you write out why this is kapow. Then you have your 1 direct quote, 1 paraphrase quote, and 1 reference citation. Okay, and then this is for week 9. If some of you who are still behind on your week 9, this is how you do this graph. You go to the Insert tab, you go to Microsoft Word, and then you go to Insert tab, click on Smart Art Graphic, and then you choose Cycle from the drop-down menu, and you will get this format. So that's what we did in week 9. And then week 10, so you guys were a little bit far ahead. Week 10, you just post your respond to at least 2 fellow students by Friday night, and then post your initial response by Wednesday. So persuasive essay rewrite. This is an example of what somebody wrote, okay, from my last class. So she's talking about online teaching has been an option for a while, but in recent years it has been used on a more regular basis. Online classes can be more flexible than in-person classes. They also provide a great variety of classes compared to in-person classes. Kids can spend more time at home with their families. Although some prefer online teaching, in-person teaching is more effective for young children because in-person teaching is healthier for young children. In-person teaching has fewer distractions, and in-person teaching has a more structured environment for young people. So first, in-person teaching is healthier for kids mentally, physically, and socially. And then here you have the 1 in-text citation. So she followed the pie structure more or less, except she has another one. So she's supposed to have, you have your P for the main point from the thesis statement. Then you have your 1 in-text citation. and then you're supposed to write 5 sentences about how in-person learning helps to improve mental health. So that's how you would do pie structure. Yeah, she did pie structure over here. Secondly, there are fewer distractions for children in a physical classroom than at home. And then here she has her in-text citation. Many children face challenges when learning online, including distractions when studying or attending classes at home. Then, so here you have your P for your main point from the thesis. Then you have your I for your in-text citation. E is the explanation of that in-text citation in 5 sentences. So this is a very good pie structure that she did. And I think she did the same thing, pie structure. So you have the in-text, you have the main point from the thesis, then you have your in-text citation, and then she has her 5 sentences about this in-text citation. Then she wrote a conclusion. And so to conclude, online teaching has many benefits, but in-person teaching is more effective for young students because it is healthier, it has a healthier environment for growth, there are fewer distractions to pull them away from studying, and in-person teaching provides a better structure. So then she also repeated her thesis statement as the first sentence of the last paragraph and as the last sentence of the first paragraph. So that's where you put your thesis statement here, the last sentence of the first paragraph and then the first sentence of the last paragraph. And then in her references, she has an alphabetical order, and then she has her author name, she has her date, her article name, her her journal, date she retrieved the website, and then the web address, and then she has it linked over here. So this is an example of somebody's last semester's persuasive passage rewrite. So this you could use as your sample. And then for the week 11 forum, you're going to be doing going back to week 7 and 8, the second essay, and you're going to post a rough draft to those essays. So here you have books versus movies. To avid book readers like myself, there's nothing like getting a new book, the feel, its smell, and the excitement of getting to know the characters in a book. Now, however, it seems every delightful book a person reads is turned into a movie thanks to modern technology. So here she wrote her, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but this is her rough draft, and that's what you're going to write for your, your week 11. And then here you have a sample too, and when you peer review other people's papers, you would write, Jan, you have a really great essay. You have a thesis with 3 reasons. You write about how books are better than movies because books improve language skills for children. Your thesis, you did a great job on your thesis. It's the last sentence of the first paragraph, and your body paragraphs match your thesis. You need to fix your grammar error because for children and adults, Jan, you need a comma. Overall, excellent work. I too love to read books, and when I read books, I get more out of books than watching the movie. Jody, you did a great job, but you are missing your in-text citations, that sort of thing. So that could be your post to 2 students. And so that is how you're going to be doing the remainder of all of your assignments for this class. And then the only thing you have left to do in week 12, I'm going to go over all of this again in week 11 and week 12. But this is just to give you an overview of how close you are to the end of the class. And so this week, all you have to do is just 2 things. The week 10 forum, where you just write the persuasive essay, the rest of it out, and then you do the week 10 credible sources assignment worksheet. And that's it for week 10. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, what's your question?
For the person's paper that you just showed us,
Yeah?
did you have to have permission from the student to show us?
She gave her permission, yeah. Usually when I do that, they're so thrilled. Wow, you're going to use my paper? Oh, wow, that's
I'm only asking because our chemistry teacher, we was asking if he can show us, an example of a person's paper, and he was saying he can't show us an example.
I have to ask permission from the student, and whenever I do that, they get so flattered. Really? Oh, of course you could use it. They get like that typically. So yeah, that student was usually the students I get samples from are usually the straight A students who actually have done research papers before. So they're
Okay.
already familiar with this stuff. That's why they do better than the other students. So I would say, so I always like to model stronger writers to the weaker writers. So that way the weaker writers can learn from the stronger writers. So if the student said yes, then you can use their paper. I don't put the name on it though to keep the privacy. Even if the student said, even if the student said, "Oh, you can use my name." In other words, she's flattered and she's like, "I'm an author somewhere. I'm published." People get like that, and so some students don't mind at all. They're just very flattered. They walk around with a smile on their face saying the teacher used my paper for her future classes or something like that. So that's very typical. Why, do you want me to use some of your papers for future classes?
Oh, you can use if mine's good enough, you can use it. I don't care.
Okay, all right.
I was just asking because I never did any of the work that, he was asking us to do. So if he showed us like an example that would, help me better understand what he's asking from me.
Oh yeah. You can write that in your end of class survey.
I will certainly do.
That's where if you want the teacher to have any kind of improvements in her teaching, that's where you put it. For example, in my end of class survey, one student wrote, "I wish she would do more PowerPoint. She does too many Microsoft Word files in her lectures. It's so boring." So after that, I switched over from, that's why some of my lectures you see are my original lectures are in Word, and then the newer lectures are actually in PowerPoint. That's why you see a mixture, because it was at that point some students said, "Well, I wish you would do more PowerPoint." And so that's why half is half, that sort of thing, you see. So you could tell that this is one of my older lectures simply because it's in Microsoft Word. So yeah, if you want us teachers, and the school notices it too. As soon as they see a weakness, they will include that into our teacher evaluation, saying, "Students have noted that you need improvements in teaching in these areas." And then whatever it is you wrote then gets into our teacher evaluation. So that's why it's important that you fill out your end of class survey so that your voice is heard. Does that make sense? A lot of people just skip over it thinking that nobody's gonna. So anyway, let's get back to our thrilling lecture on fake news. Okay, so how do we find reliable sources? So there's two kinds of sources. You have primary sources and secondary sources. So primary sources means that these are the original sources. In other words, the person who witnessed the event. So conference presentations, dissertations, memoirs, photographs and paintings, speeches, work of literature, government documents, diaries. In other words, the person who saw the event and then wrote it down, what he saw, that's a primary source. Secondary source means that you read a book about, okay, so if you're at the Civil War and after this, and you're on the field of the Civil War in 1865, and you write down exactly what happened as it was going on in 1865, that's a primary source. Secondary source is some professor reading her encyclopedia about the Civil War, and then she's just like what you're doing. You're going to write about the Civil War. You have to look it up in some encyclopedia to find out what happened. That's a secondary source. So secondary sources are not original sources. Instead, these sources seek to analyze, interpret, or comment on primary sources. So secondary sources include biographies, literature reviews, articles written about primary sources. Also, secondary sources include encyclopedias, world fact books, dictionaries, atlases, manuals, and reserve reference materials, books, periodicals, reports, videos. All of this you can find in your LIRN online library. And in a physical library, this would be a room set aside where you could take out the encyclopedia. You can't borrow the encyclopedia, you got to put it back so that everybody in the class could visit the reference room or the reserve room for that. Nowadays, with everything online, the reserve room is now all online. Okay, so these cannot be checked out. So the most reliable source that you can find is a peer-reviewed article. So that's because other experts have read the article and deemed that article really good or valid. So that's why. And so sources like university like .edu, .org, .gov are credible websites. If you have .com, that's not always a credible source. So .gov, .org, and .edu. So all of this information comes from your interactive lecture. So if you go through your interactive lecture, you will find all of these. That's where these blue boxes came from. I took it from your interactive lecture. Anyway, and so what is the difference between a popular source and a peer-reviewed source? A popular source is what you find on Google. Peer-reviewed source is what you find on Google Scholar. And so popular sources are like National Enquirer. Like when you go to the supermarket and you look at the magazines next to the cashier, that's the popular source. If you were to go into your online library, or you go to any library, in my case I live near UCLA, so if I go to the UCLA library, then I would find peer-reviewed sources. And so popular sources are like the authors sometimes don't have credentials, sometimes they just make up the stories. That's National Enquirer, they actually make stuff up just to sell the magazine. And then peer-reviewed sources, you have experts. So authors will be experts in their field. So that is the A in kapow, author. And then in popular sources, articles are written for a broad audience using everyday language and usually in a casual tone. But when we have scholarly sources, which is what this is, peer-reviewed sources are the same thing as scholarly sources, then the papers are written for experts, by experts, and written in a formal tone. And there's lots of technical or discipline-specific terminology, which is seldom defined because the articles are usually written to be read by other experts. You're supposed to already know what those terms mean, which is why scholarly short sources are way more difficult for students to read. Whereas if you were to read something from a popular source, that's everyday language, so that's more casual. So articles may have short summaries of research or news, but papers usually report an abstract. So when you read in your database, you're actually looking at the abstract or a summary of somebody's science paper. Authors, like in Wikipedia, Wikipedia is not a reliable source because Wikipedia lacks in-text citations. And so in popular sources, they will cite facts, but not always put in-text citations. Whereas in a peer-reviewed source, you always have to cite your source if you want your source to be considered credible. You also include a list of references. Articles may include many photographs or illustrations, often pretty to look at. In other words, popular sources. Scholarly papers just have a lot of tables and graphs, but seldom any photographs. Here in popular sources, there's no strict guidelines for submission and no peer review process. But for a scholarly article, the journal has very specific guidelines for papers to be published. Often this information can be found on the journal's website, and a rigorous peer review process is done. Okay, so here, and Google Scholar is a great place to find peer-reviewed articles. But even if you have Google Scholar, you may not have access to the entire article, but you have access to all the abstracts. If you want access to all the articles, you have to go to the Fortis online library. So that's the difference between Google Scholar, and Google Scholar gives you all the abstracts, while Fortis gives you the rest of the article, because Fortis College pays a subscription fee to have access to all those databases. Unreliable sources, and this I got from your, I do believe I got this from your interactive lecture. So unreliable sources include Wikipedia, because Wikipedia doesn't have in-text citations, blogs, tweets, personal pages, some sites ending in answer.com, boy that's ancient, forums, and biased sites. Unreliable sources can be highly interesting and insightful, but sometimes they lead to valid information. So don't use Wikipedia for your sources. So how do you find credible sources? So here you have kapow, currency, C for currency. How new is the website? A for authority, who wrote the article? Purpose, what do they want me to know? Objective, is it fact or opinion? Writing style, does it list sources? So always use kapow. So if, for example, you're looking at this, which one of these articles represents an unreliable source? So take a look at Article 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. At least 2 of these articles are not reliable. Why not?
I can't really see your screen. It's too small.
Oh, okay. So I don't think I can make it bigger. So anybody who has good eyesight, can you see it?
Oh,
I want to say that.
Yeah, I don't think I can make it. I don't think I can make it bigger. I could try. Hold on, let me see.
If you do your two fingers together, you can make your screen bigger. But I want to say the untaxed vehicle is one of the fake one.
Okay, is that better? I made it bigger. How's that?
that's better.
All right. So now that we can see it, which 2 articles on this page is not credible? Can you guess which one? Usually advertisements are all fallacies.
Lingo?
Yes. Why?
I don't know. Say sponsored by Lingo.
Yes.
and
Anything that says sponsored by means it's an ad, and therefore, as soon as you know it says sponsored by anything, anywhere in your website, you don't pay attention to it because they're all ads. Ads are all fallacies of relevance because ads tend to make claims that have no credible evidence. All ads are interested in is getting you to buy their product. So they'll lie, an advertiser will lie, distort, or exaggerate the truth just to get you to buy the product, especially a medical product. So if they say this will get rid of your headaches or something like that, or improve your memory, you don't have to totally believe in that, as opposed to if your personal doctor tells you to take such and such a medicine. So yeah, so anytime you see sponsored by, those are not credible sources, okay, because they're ads. So are these credible sources? Are these scholarly or non-scholarly sources for an academic paper? Hassan?
No.
No what? Would you use these for your paper?
No.
No, yes. It's funny. Yeah, I took this picture at my grocery store. So these are known as popular sources or non-scholarly sources. And also they tend to exaggerate, okay? Depending on which magazine you're talking about, they tend to exaggerate the truth just to get clicks. So fake news is the opposite of credible sources. So fake news is a term that has come to mean different things to different people. At its core, we are defining fake news as those news stories that are false. The story itself is fabricated with no verifiable facts, sources, or quotes. Sometimes these stories may be propaganda that is intentionally designed to mislead the reader, or may be designed as clickbait written for economic incentives. In other words, the writer profits on the number of people who can click on the story. In recent years, so fake news is when you make a claim without using credible sources. Therefore, fake news is the same thing as a fallacy of relevance. Fallacies and fake news are the same thing. In other words, they're illogical arguments because you're making a claim based on nothing. Fake news is used to mislead people, confuse the public, cause mistrust, misinformation, and manipulation. Fake news occurs everywhere, like in your social media newsfeed. So do not trust what you see in Facebook, Twitter, or any social media. So do you believe all the news that you see in your social media feed? Yes or no?
No.
No. Okay. So here, fake news makes it harder for people to see the truth. A Pew Research study found that those on the right and the left of the political spectrum have different ideas about the definition of fake news. The Pew study suggests that fake news panic rather than driving people to abandon. Well, anyway, so fake news just means that it's false. So anytime you gossip or rumor about somebody, that's fake news. So have you ever gossiped or been a rumor of gossip? How did that make you feel? Did you ever gossip about someone? Everybody guilty of that? Nobody wants to admit it. that they have.
Yes.
Yeah. Have you ever been the victim of gossip? In other words, other people gossip about you.
Yeah, I think so, but I haven't heard it to my face.
Did
I'm pretty sure.
Did it ruin your reputation?
No.
No. Well, for some people, certain kinds of rumors can ruin. Like for a teacher, I remember I was at one of my very first jobs, and it was rumored that one of the teachers was dating a student. Okay, that's illegal. And so as soon as it got found out who was dating, but there was no proof to it. So I never did find out if that was a true rumor or not. So when you start a rumor, that means that you're making a claim with no evidence. That's just like a fallacy of relevance, just like ads. So anytime you make a claim with no credit, that's why when you write your paper, you want to have credible evidence so that you don't have fake news. These are the different kinds of fake news that occurs in American society. Propaganda adopted by governments, corporations to manage attitudes, values, and knowledge. It appeals to your emotions. In other words, it uses pathos only. It can be beneficial or harmful. And so propaganda, for example, China likes to have propaganda. In their newspaper, all they do is give you good news about China, and that's it. When you have a newspaper, you should have both good news and bad news. If you only have good news, that's propaganda. Clickbait. Clickbait is eye-catching, sensational headlines designed to distract, often misleading, and content that may not reflect, and usually it drives ad revenue. And so in other words, whatever happened to Shirley Temple? Whatever happened to your favorite movie star? That's clickbait. Every time you click on it, somebody gets money. Sponsored content. Advertisement made to look like a real article. Okay, that's what we looked at before. Sponsored content. Partisan. Partisan is what you get on foxnews.com. So if you go to foxnews.com, everything is for Republicans. Trump is the leader, and he gets all the good news. Like he's perfect. Then if you go to CNN.com, then it becomes Trump is the villain and Biden is the good news. And so when you're partisan, it means that you take sides. You take political sides. So ideological, and includes interpretation of facts. But you have to, when you do reporting of journalism, you have to be objective. You have to, and when you write your paper, you have to state both sides of the issue. If you only state one side of the issue, then it's the cherry picking fallacy. In other words, you're just sticking to one side, and you're too one-sided. That's called partisan fake news. Conspiracy theory means that you think everybody is after you. You think that a group of people in some secret group is doing a crime, no good to you. And so when people do that, then that's when they have conspiracy theories. Pseudoscience is when someone tries to sell you some fake medicine and then say that it's going to cure something. Okay, so that's pseudoscience, snake oil. So those are, here are some more, so you believe there's satire and hoax. So if you go to onion.com, there you have a lot of headlines that are all satire. That is social commentary or humor, and varies widely in quantity and quality, and the meaning may not be present. Misinformation includes a mix of factual, false, or partly false content. And then error, and so these are all different and doctored content. That means that they lie. That's so National Enquirer. So this is an example of clickbait. Okay, clickbait. There you go. That's a clickbait. Okay, have you seen this kind of clickbait on the web, in which you see a beautiful model and you're like, whatever happened to such and such? So when you see clickbait, as soon as you click on it, then that means that somebody is earning money. So this is not a reliable source. This is also clickbait. Also, any kind of ad or sponsored articles are not scholarly sources. And so here, propaganda. Oh, here we go. This is propaganda. Propaganda means that China only writes about all the stuff that's good, and therefore they want the world to think China is perfect. Well, China is not perfect. Nowhere is perfect. So that's called propaganda, in which you only show one side of an issue. And the O in kapow means that it's got to be objective, means that the article, in order for it to be credible, you have to show both sides of an issue. Therefore, if you want to be objective, you've got to say that, oh, there's a lot of crime in China, and there's some good stuff, bad stuff, good stuff, bad stuff. There should be a balance. That is credible, you see. Not just everything good or everything bad. Okay, same thing, all this stuff about. And then satire and parody. This one is funny, okay? Here, this is from The Onion. The LA mayor prevents his kid from lazing about by installing spikes on the family couch. Do you think that he actually put real spikes on his couch to prevent his kids from sitting down and being lazy? Yes or no? No. So this is satire. So this is supposed to be humorous, okay? There's a whole article on that. I just took the picture. So this is, if you go to The Onion, that's really funny. So you get to see. So you also know that we don't use satire or satirical articles for our research. And here you talk about manipulated videos. In the age of AI, so I have not updated this to include ChatGPT and to include artificial intelligence. That I didn't do just yet. And so when you have AI, you can actually have Biden's face, and then you can have the mouth saying anything you want it to say, you see. So they could put a picture of someone's mouth and then Biden's face, and it looks like Biden is saying whatever it is you want him to say. So that's known as a deep fake video that they can use AI for. And so therefore we don't use manipulated videos or sponsored stories for our paper, okay? So all of these, and then when you go to the web and you see sponsored stories, these stories are not to be believed because they're all ads. And so remember, the P in kapow means purpose. In other words, that you got to make sure it's not an ad. So we don't use ads, okay? It's more sponsored stories, and we don't, and then here, sponsored stories you may like. All of these are all, you can't use these for, because they're all ads, and ad. So, you get the idea.
You okay?
Yeah. So here you have, so here you have a media bias chart. I'm going to have to end this early. Wow. So you have a media. So anyway, you'll take a look at this. So why not one of you give the lecture? What do you think this chart means? What does this chart mean? Chantal? What is media bias?
I'm sorry.
What is media bias?
It looks like everything's up in the top has more X.
Well, when you read, okay, now my voice is back. Yeah, so basically you want to trust the sources that are neutral. And yet media bias means you have some sources that lean too much to the left and some sources that lean too much to the right. And when somebody leans too much to the right, you don't want to believe them. And when somebody leans too much to the left, you don't want to believe them. Left meaning Democrats, right meaning Republicans, just so you know. You want to trust only the people that are objective or neutral. So that would be the sources that are in the middle. And so this was in 2018, and now by 2021, there is practically nobody in the middle anymore. Everybody is usually onto the left or onto the right. And so what these two media bias charts show is that the country has become a lot more polarized. There are not many people who are objective anymore. People are usually avid progressives, in other words, Democrats, or avid Republicans. In other words, they're for Trump or they're for Biden, or for Obama. Nobody wants to discuss, and and people who are on the left all want to hang out with people on the left. People who are Republicans now want to hang out with people who are Republicans. And whenever people argue, nobody can stand debating or hearing another point of view anymore. And when you can't stand listening to other people's point of view, you become narrow-minded. You become as bad as the bigots you say you hate. Okay? In order to be open-minded, you should be open to what the left says and to what the right says. Even if you don't like what they say, but you still should be aware of it. And that's how you are open-minded. But these days, nobody is open-minded because everybody takes sides. They're either on the left or on the right. So that if you go to allsides.com, here they tell you everything, okay? They tell you what's on the left, the center. In other words, when you go to allsides.com, you can believe their news because they report the news from all perspectives. So that's the news you want to believe, is when you have news that goes from all the perspectives. And most media outlets do not do that because of ratings. When you do this, it's very boring. That is why people don't do that anymore. The reason why people lean to the left or lean to the right is that makes it interesting, and ratings and all that sort of thing. So you should go check out allsides.com, okay? And then these are 7 types of misinformation and disinformation, which we went over. And then I think I'm almost done. So how do you recognize fake news? Whenever the headline has too much emotion or tone. Whenever you got to consider the source. If a news story has a dramatic headline or includes exclamation points or all caps, it may be a false or misleading story. So be skeptical of stories that make use of emotionally charged language. Balanced news sources use neutral language and standard punctuation in headlines and stories. Consider the source. If the source of the article is unknown and not well known, be suspicious. Citation and images. If an article does not include information about the source, or facts and quotes and images, it could be a false story. It is extremely easy to cut and paste quotes from other stories. And so social media. So here we don't trust anything from social media. And I think I have to do all of this for ChatGPT. So that means that this is actually going to get longer, as there was a lawyer that was at the LA Times. He used ChatGPT for his, does everyone know what ChatGPT is? Artificial intelligence, you know what that is?
Yeah. And it's like a robot or something?
Yeah, it's a chat bot. And so this lawyer, he used ChatGPT for his source. And then ChatGPT ended up lying or making up or fabricating content. And so when the lawyer gave in his research, it was based on nothingness. And so he got sued. So you cannot completely trust ChatGPT. So that means I have to add that to, because ChatGPT is so new. It's only since from November of 2022, all the stuff about ChatGPT. I don't know if I put that article into your classes. I know I did it for my other school. But yeah, so this lawyer got in trouble, got sued for using ChatGPT. And then the lawyer said stupidly, "Oh, I didn't know that ChatGPT makes things up." And I'm like, well, yeah, I've used ChatGPT quite often, and I would say summarize the stories in this anthology, and it will make it up. If it doesn't know, in other words, if it doesn't know something, it's going to make it up. So that's because ChatGPT was engineered by humans, and when humans don't know something, humans will make it up. That's so human. So that means that they really designed it too well because they made it too human. In a way, that's kind of humorous in a way. But anyway, so the chatbot cannot be fully trusted. If you use ChatGPT, just like if you use Wikipedia, you have to double check your source. You have to double check to make sure that it exists. You got to make sure that such and such a book or reference actually exists. So if you use ChatGPT, you still have to double check to make sure that the information that it gives you is true by using fact checking, Snopes, and doing Google reverse, that sort of thing. So this lawyer obviously didn't do that, so he got in trouble. I will put that into my latest, I forgot to do that for this, but it was in yesterday's LA Times or the day before, about this lawyer, Schwartz, I think was his name. Anyway, so that's the end of today's lecture. And do you have any questions about fake news and that sort of thing? I mean, they can even make somebody give Hassan's face and then have a mouth that says, "Hi, my name is John," or "Hi, I can," or say something stupid like, I like to bark like a dog when I wake up in the morning. You know, yeah, they can do that. They can make you say stupid things, or your friends who have nothing better to do will say, "And I bark like a dog in the morning. Look at me going bark, 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 cock-a-doodle-doo," and you're doing that, you know, and everyone's like, "He's not really serious, is he crazy?" You know, people do that now with so deep fakes, and they all worry about the 2024 election coming up with all those deep fakes because they could do that with AI. How do you know that that's real? And then everybody's worried because I don't think they know how to tell people how to tell that's real, because it's so new. All the AI stuff is so new that they haven't figured out how to do the plagiarism checks. They haven't figured out. It just happens so fast. So that's the scary new world of artificial intelligence. So anyway, so don't trust ChatGPT for your sources, just like you can't trust Wikipedia either. So the scholarly sources in your online library and your peer-reviewed and your Google Scholar are the most reliable sources for your research paper. So that's the end. That's the end. My end conclusion. Do you have any questions? No. Okay. So next week I will be talking about how to write a science paper. So that way you can understand the science part of writing a whole science paper, and that will help you understand how to read a scholarly source in the first place. So that's going to be next week's. So I'll see you all next week. And if you have no more questions, I will end this. Let me see if I can find the recording. I have to go like this. Hold on. There we go. All right. So if you have no more questions, I will now end it, and I'll see you all next week.